Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm gonna go live a little bit early today, actually. Explain why in a second. Let me just put these guys in. Boom. Cool. Wally, what is up? I'm gonna go live a little early today. Gonna get these things in here. Cool. All right. Okay, guys. Bobby, good to see you, man. Hope you guys are having a good weekend. Let me know how the sound's going, if you guys can hear me clearly. Actually supposed to start today at, Joel, good to see you. I was actually supposed to start today at 1 p.m. Central Time, but I'm watching a friend's dog, and I'm just going to start a bit early just so I could kind of just go hang out with them at the park and all that stuff. So I'll give it like another, 30 seconds or so. Christo, let me know if I pronounced that name right. I'm so bad with names all the time on these calls. Lucas, Joel, good to see you guys. Buddy as well, good to see you guys. Let me know what you're up to this weekend. I was just going to go, I'm watching, like I said, a friend's dog, and I was just going to go relax at the park and read and drink some coffee and then just take the dog for a walk and stuff like that. Nothing too crazy. But let me know what you guys are up to. And it's always good to hear from you guys, so give it a sec. So my Saturday ritual before these calls, like I always tell you guys, try to drink hot liquid out of glass, never plastic, just to help decrease that estrogenic load, estrogenic chemicals and stuff of that sort. And I'm obviously drinking coffee, and I try to always pick an organic coffee brand. So let me put that to the side and then get my notes here, and then we'll rock and roll. So, okay. So you guys, today's topic, we'll be talking about more like diet related stuff, in particular, like what I actually personally do for my diet and how it's evolved and changed over the years. And I'm just going to kind of break it down and tell you exactly what I eat towards like the middle of the call or so. And then we'll go from there. But before I begin, I want to get in a habit of always putting the spotlight on my clients instead of just myself. I'm trying to, it's tough, especially in the social media world, because gurus always, I don't consider myself a guru. I'm just a student like anyone else on a similar path as a lot of my clients as well, just at a different step of the journey. But the attention is always like on them. It's always like on the guru, on the quote unquote expert. Jamie, good to see you. Lucas, good to see you as well. On the quote unquote expert, on the guru, it's all about them, their success, their physique, etc., etc. And I do it a little bit too. I hate it. It's just like really the only way to kind of help stand out online too. But I really try my best to at least have half the content be about my client's journey and their success and their struggles. Because I feel like, dude, if you're an influencer, you should be showing like what your work has influenced. You know what I mean? Because it's great if you're successful or whatever, but what has your knowledge and stuff? How has it helped other people? I feel that's more impactful and shows more that it actually works for a wide range of people and stuff of that sort. So I want to give a shout out for them. They're members in this group as you guys as well. Yeah, and I'm just going to go by first name here, but I post their photos and their journey and stuff like that. But this is going to go on other platforms, and I don't know if they want their names to be held there. So, I mean, Carlos, I want to give him a shout out. He reached out to me, I don't know, like 3 or 4 months ago, and we've been coaching 100% remote. That's all I've been doing for like the last like 5 years or so, and I've been coaching 17 years in total. But he's down 20 pounds. He's very busy. He didn't have a gym, so we just have him basically doing workouts at home and kind of navigating around his busy schedule and still making it work, which shows that, hey, you don't need a gym. And just remember, hunters and gatherers, we're all in really good shape and really healthy, and they didn't have like an LA Fitness. They definitely didn't have a like 401k plan or whatever. Not saying gyms can't help. I love going to the gym, but just know that, especially if weight loss is your goal, it's not like something that you absolutely need. So you could just do with the basics and go like a really long way, honestly. Charlie, we've been coaching together you guys have probably seen me post about him quite frequently. Felix, good to see you. Jamie, Mario, post about him quite frequently in the group. So he's down 92 pounds. This happened over a 10-month period. And I think we have maybe 3 or 4 months to go before his journey is complete as well. Very proud of him. He's also off of two medical drugs that he's been on for quite a while as well. So very proud of him. Once again, a unique schedule, tough field, contracting work, etc., etc. But we're able to customize it to his needs and kind of get the ball rolling. Alex, down 34 pounds and doesn't suffer from GERD any longer and is about to get off his type 2 diabetes medication, metformin. That's only after 4 months. A lot of people struggle with type 2 diabetes, obviously. Just know that if you don't want it to be part of your life, and I'm not personally giving you advice here, it's just moreover kind of like what I go over with my clients, you could learn to become healthy enough to not have to be on metformin for the rest of your life and deal with all the side effects and all that stuff. If you just become healthy enough, and also if you're willing to change the person that led to the type 2 diabetes, obviously that's going to be key. There's another Alex as well, very proud of him. Lost 15 pounds, but more importantly, quit a job that was very stressful for him and dragging down his mental and physical health, and transitioning to a new job that has more balance, which I feel is key and pivotal, because if you're in a toxic work environment, or maybe you're in a good environment, but it's just not right for you, it's going to be really tough for you to optimize your health, your mental and physical health. No matter what you're doing, you're basically just going to be on damage control, simply because of the fact that work typically takes up a large portion of the week for most people. So you're looking 5 days a week, on average, let's say 8 hours a day. But really, especially if you're driving to work, it's like, 30 minutes there, an hour there, 30 minutes back, an hour back. Also, the amount of energy consumed, you really don't have much energy to do anything else throughout the day outside of work, especially during the week, most of the time, especially if you're really not taking care of yourself. So it's pivotal to, if you want to optimize your mental and physical health, to really get in the right occupation for you. And like I always say, just finding your passion or purpose or the work you love to do is really not enough. It is a great step in the right direction, but another important variable to consider is your environment also has to reflect your passion and allow you to express it the way you uniquely want to express it. Because remember, nature is a novelty generator, so there are no two of anything on the planet. Not even two droplets of water are the same on the planet. Even two grain, like pieces of grain, are the same on the planet. So obviously, human beings are going to be dramatically different, and you really have to A, find what you enjoy doing, but B, also find an environment that helps you express that enjoyment and those core values. That's really key. So if you have one, if you understand what you want to be doing, that's already huge, because most people don't even have that. But then, you want to take into consideration, is my environment allowing me to express that desire and interest, etc. I also want to give a shout out to Ray, 75 years old. So he's an international client from a different country, and really proud of him. He's 75 years old, and he's still making great progress. He lost, 10 pounds of body fat together. He doesn't even go to a gym. He just has a very basic pair of dumbbells at home and a pull-up bar that we've been optimizing, and he still managed to lose 10 pounds of unwanted body fat at 75, drug-free, and see results. And now we've kind of basically lost enough body fat with him, and we're transitioning more to just a muscle phase. Freddie, George, good to see you. Freddie, I haven't seen you in a while, man. How are you doing? George, let me know how things are going too. I haven't heard from you in quite a while. Hopefully real estate's booming and all that stuff. Hope you're doing well. Patrick, great client as well. I posted his pictures in the group. He lost 25 pounds of body fat and was able to be healthy enough to get off his high blood pressure medication as well. So that's like huge. And he looks dramatically better, which is good too. A lot of people downplay the importance of aesthetics, like, oh, I don't want to be vain or this and that. But I really feel like if you look your best, you feel your best, your self-esteem goes up, Your immune system is going to be better as well because you just feel better about yourself, that indirect relationship because you're just more positive, et cetera, et cetera. It all plays a role. You want to obviously be healthy on the inside, but I think, hey, why not also look great on the outside too, especially since you can do both at the same time with any wellness or health or fitness program. Yeah, thank you, Freddie. I'm always on the fence about shaving it off and starting over again, but then it takes a little bit of time to grow it back. Let me know how you're doing too. Hopefully you're having a good weekend. Tim Petro, another great client, 60 years old, okay? 60 years old, no gym at all, just a pair of bands and 2 nature walks per week. And we're able to get him to lose 60 pounds of unwanted body fat and, more importantly, get healthy enough to not be on 9 different medical drugs. So he was able to get off 9 different medical drugs within that period just by, working on a lot of lifestyle, health variables, belief systems that led to those problems, obviously changing his diet a tremendous amount, including more like low intensity physical activity during the day, like I mentioned, the workouts with the bands and the nature walks, etc., and able to get off 9 medical drugs and lose 60 pounds. I interviewed him twice, so I would recommend checking that out if you are struggling with health issues yourself, and maybe you're on a lot of medical drugs that you don't want to be on. You could at least go see what works for him. It doesn't necessarily mean it'll work for you, but at least you can get some good ideas rolling in your head of things you can look into to help yourself on your journey. And the last person I want to give a shout out to in this group is Jenny. She's amazing, and she has 2 kids and a single mother business owner. And unfortunately, growing the business and taking care of 2 kids, she kind of let herself go, like a lot of people. And she gained 25 pounds of excess body fat and actually became type 2 diabetic, unfortunately. So we worked together for 6 months, and she was able to lose that 25 pounds of excess body fat, get off her metformin, be healthy enough to not have to be on metformin, which is a type 2 diabetic medication. And she's been doing well, and she's already been managing this and not having to go back on the drugs for already over a year. And I posted it here. You guys could obviously reach out to her and just talk to her and get some general ideas and see if it's going to work for you. And so I wanted to give those people a shout out just to show, put them on the spotlight to show that, hey, all of them have unique challenges. All of them have different schedules. All of them have they're in a different age group, different ethnicities or whatever. But the common theme is they're all just making it happen. And it starts with you obviously putting your mental and physical health first and making it a priority, which I think it should be a priority for everyone, no matter your motivations in life, because what are you going to do if you don't have your mental and physical health? You really can't accomplish too much. And your mental and physical health always acts as like a ceiling for your level of happiness in life, I believe, because you can be excelling, making great work. David, good to see you. Randy, good to see you as well. Thanks for jumping in. You could be, doing great at work, very sought after in your field, making great money, maybe being a great family member as well. But, if you're depressed, if you have major depression, if you have other health issues going on, you're only going to be as happy as you are healthy. So that sets the ceiling. So if your health is at a C, but all your other successes are at an A, your happiness in life is really just going to be at a C. So you really do have to prioritize your health and wellness. Of course, everyone has different goals, but everyone has a biological body too that they need to learn how to maintain in a balanced way. And I'm not saying you got to be like super ripped, living at the gym, like super buff and muscular, which is probably not even healthy anyways. I'm just saying you have to have a good general level of base health and stuff of that sort. So I just wanted to give a shout out to all those clients, which you guys probably know in this group already. But just as a sign that hey, you could make it happen no matter your situation, no matter your age. I mean, even one of the clients is 75 years old. Okay. So if he's able to do it at 75, without even a gym, once again, I mentioned all we have is just a pair of dumbbells at home and a pull-up bar, like what's stopping you? And the only real answer is most likely yourself. And you got to ask, like, why put your happiness last, and stuff of that sort. So I will be talking about nutrition today in terms of like what I eat specifically and how I've progressed in my journey in my nutrition over the years, because it has changed. And I'll go from there. But remember, as I always say on every live, this is like what works for me personally. And just be very careful with listening to any like influencers or gurus online. This includes me. Even if they are very competent, they just never met you personally and they don't know your unique situation. So it's very tough to give health advice, credible, clear health advice to anyone before you met them. I mean, just imagine you go to a doctor's office and they don't even talk to you and they're like, here, take this medication. That would be kind of weird, right? But that's basically what's happening when you're taking advice from people online, probably taking that out of context as well. Now, if a person is an expert in the field already, he can probably decipher how to put it back into proper context, utilize the information appropriately. But outside of that, it's just be very, very careful with who you listen to. So, because they never met you at the end of the day, even if they're credible. And most of the time, they're not that credible, okay? As I covered in a couple of other lives, especially if at the end of their message, they're selling you some supplements or stuff of that sort, then that's already, in my opinion, like a huge red flag and stuff of that sort. So here's what I eat and a quick history, okay? Let me just get a sip of coffee here and then we'll go. Paul, good to see you. Hope all is well. So here's what I eat. So basically, I want to give you a quick background of how I've progressed with my nutrition throughout the year. So first, or throughout my lifetime in general. So first and foremost, I never really got into like fast food. Of course, I ate in and out sometimes and stuff of that sort, but it was never really a staple of my diet. I would maybe have it like once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks or something of that sort, okay? And I was really like, for the large part of my youth, raised off-grid by my grandmother on a self-sustaining small off-grid farm, right? So I was just raised eating pasture-raised animals, some animals we would trap, some fish we would fish for, homegrown vegetables. My only liquids were like basically like milk, water, and teas, and that's it. I never even had coffee really until like a few years ago. And even now I just drink maybe like a small cup. As you guys see here, it's pretty much what I would drink first thing in the morning. And that's it. And basically I would just drink water the rest of the time. So Freddie has a question. What do you recommend if the problem and the struggle is yourself? So Freddie, I covered this on a lot of different lives. And oftentimes that is the biggest struggle, is just people standing in their own way, right? I'll link another live I did previously. I've done actually a few lives on this very topic because it's so important. In any health journey, the simplest thing to do is going to be getting on a workout and nutrition program. It's a good start. And it's a great start, actually, but it's not really going to solve a person's health issues most of the time. There are no absolutes. Sometimes, for sure, it is all the person needs to do. But that's maybe 1 out of every 100 cases, okay? The other 99 cases, there really is a lot of psychology behind what led to self-abuse, that led to a lot of excess weight gain, and that led to a lot of obviously maladaptive behavior, which led to a lot of excess weight gain, which most likely led to various other health issues and stuff of that sort that need to be addressed. Because if those things aren't addressed, then the problem will keep reoccurring. Just like as a extreme example, imagine like you have a family member that has a gambling problem and they run out of money and all you do is just give them more money. If you don't solve the reason of why they have that gambling problem, they're just going to obviously keep coming back to you for more money and stuff of that sort, and the problem will never go away. So there's so much that goes into that, and I covered it in so many different topics, so many different lives rather. So message me at the end if I forget, and I'll send you some of those links, and hopefully they'll help. But on this live here, I wanted to specifically focus on nutrition because we haven't covered it in a little while. So going back to what I was talking about, I basically grew up on a ranch where we just ate, pasture-raised animals, wild crops, potatoes, stuff of this sort. Mainly just drank water and some teas. Rarely, it's mostly just water for the most part, and stuff of that sort. So when I came in the U.S., obviously I transitioned more to like factory farmed food. I didn't even know any better. I just thought, I was just too naive and thought like all food was raised the way, we raised it in Ukraine on that off-grid farm. And so I went to Costco and just thought everything there was like pasture raised and beyond organic, like biodynamic. I didn't even know what like antibiotics or beta agonists or steroids were, or synthetic biocides of various sorts, etc. I didn't even know that stuff existed. I didn't even know that people put that stuff on their food. So obviously, I've told this story many times, but, I ran into a really interesting presentation on YouTube called Nutrition, the Dirt Facts, hosted by Paul Chek. This was many, many years ago at this point. But he was basically, in short, it was a very long presentation. I think it was like a few hours. But basically, in short, he was just describing the difference between industrial agriculture and like biodynamic farming. He was using that as two big examples. And for the listeners, biodynamic farming is probably like what you have in your mind's eye of what farming really is. You got that small ranch out in the open, where you have a lot of like grass and open space, and you have a lot of animals roaming free, etc., etc. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's the general idea, with a wide variety of crops, wide variety of animals, etc., etc. And I just thought that's how everyone grew their food. I really didn't even know any better, and I ate that food for so many years. But then I ran into that presentation, and I was like, whoa, shoot, this is way different than the type of food we were growing. This is way different than the type of food we were growing on that off-grid farm. And I was like going to Costco all these years, buying like 50 eggs for like $1.50. I'm exaggerating just to make a point, obviously. But buying like 50 eggs for like $1.50, thinking all these eggs are like pasture raised, all the hens are roaming around outside eating bugs, worms, etc., etc. But not the case. Obviously, most of you know factory farming, it's a lot of chemicals, a lot of bacteria, a lot of genetically modified grains and ingredients fed to these animals, etc., etc. And obviously that all makes it into the nutritional profile of the meat or the egg you're eating, which then absorbs into your tissue and eventually becomes embedded as part of your biology. So, and then there's also the spiritual side for anyone that's into that. Obviously you eat the flesh of a miserable animal or a plant, and then you inherit that misery eventually too. So if you believe that, then that's important to consider. If not, then look at it more from the objective vantage point of bioaccumulation of various toxins, poor ingredients, non-species specific diets into the flesh, tissue, and fat of the animal and the egg, and then you would absorb that as well. So I was eating that stuff for a while, and then I progressed slowly to at least buying USDA organic products from the grocery store. Once I found out about that, I was obviously doing a lot of research for my second book as well, the Anti-Factory Farm Shopping Guide, which took about 4 years. And I worked on various ranches, such as the number 5, barbeef.com. Great ranch for anyone that's interested in basically wild beef. And what I mean by that is Frank Fitzpatrick, he raised that herd. He's been raising it for about like 20 or 30 years. And he doesn't use any vaccines, any medicines. He doesn't dehorn the cattle. He doesn't clip the bulls. No antibiotics, no beta agonists, no steroids, no GMOs, no grains, no synthetic biocides, no synthetic fertilizers, any of that stuff. They're literally just left out on the pasture. I volunteered there for well over like a year, and that's it, and then they're usually process them also out in the fields. They weren't really even sent to a plant unless they're being shipped across state lines and stuff of that sort. So I volunteered there, volunteered also at happy-hens.com, which is a legitimate pasture-raised egg operation, and then also Bluebird Canyon Farms, which is a great small biodynamic farm in Laguna Beach, among other ranches as well. And over that time, and it took a while, I slowly started transitioning from factory farm food in the grocery store to at least USDA organic food. So the difference is with the USDA organic, how it's easily identifiable at the grocery stores. You have that circular logo usually, and it says like USDA at the top and it says organic at the bottom, or it says organic like in a big font letters on the package somewhere, which also indicates USDA organic as well. So some kind of labeling confusion is basically if you see that logo, that circular logo that says USDA organic, that means like 95+% of the ingredients are organic. If you just see organic in like huge bold letters on the packaging, that also means the same thing, 95+%. Sometimes it's rare. You do see a logo. It's usually circular. It says 100% organic. Then it's obviously 100% organic. Sometimes you do see it says made with organic ingredients. And if you look at the back of the label, maybe there'll be like 5 ingredients and one of them might be organic. So that's something to look out for. So it's a little bit tricky on that end. And the USDA organic label isn't perfect, but it is a great step in the right direction when you're looking to transition into more natural food that aren't grown with various synthetic biocides, okay? So what does that mean? Basically, the only thing that the USDA organic label really, so David, good question. And I had to do a lot of research for this one. It's a strong label when it comes to basically these topics here. It's very good at keeping synthetic biocides out of your food. It is actually great at that. It's also good at keeping antibiotics out of your food, steroids, beta agonists, and GMOs, genetically modified organisms, if that's a concern for you, okay? And that's really about it. It just really stops there. Outside of that, most of the things you find at the grocery store level, even at places like Whole Foods, not every item, but a lot of them, are going to be like what I refer to as industrial organic. So it's basically kind of like, for the most part, a factory farm, but with organic ingredients. So, for example, you can have a free-range chicken operation, right? I'm sure everyone has seen that at the grocery store. So you can say free-range chicken, organic. Okay, so what does this mean? So 99% of the time, not every time, but 99% of the time, especially if it's at the grocery store, even at places like Whole Foods, which I love that store, they do have some great items. Not every item is great, but they do have some great choices if you know what to look for. What that means is you basically have a huge warehouse, a small little teeny concrete patio, and that's it. That's free range. And usually if you know the behavior of hens or meat chickens, they call them broiler chickens or whatever, egg-laying hens, whatever you want to refer them as, they're usually very young. So for broiler, the meat chickens, they're typically alive for like 8 to 12 weeks, maybe sooner sometimes. It depends on the operation. So when you put them in a warehouse and that's all they consciously know because they've literally been born like a few weeks ago, typically whenever they see bright white light, which comes in through the doors, they're very afraid of it, right? It's kind of very startling. So they typically tend to hang around inside the barn the entire time. And even if they have a small little concrete patio, which is like what free range indicates, it's not like they're out in pasture or anything of that sort. They're typically too afraid to go out there. And if you go to any of these operations, and I've gone to a few of them, what you'll see is 98+% of them just hang out inside all the time. And they never go outside. So they're not really free range. If anything, it's more of like it's another phrase called cage free. Cage free means they're literally in an enclosed barn their entire life. Where caged is they're in a actual cage, usually like a shoebox size crate. So what does this mean? This means that the hens can't go find their food, right? If they're truly free range on the package, it would never say vegetarian fed. That's the biggest giveaway. I'll catch the rest later. No worries, Randy. We got to catch up too. Robert, Lewis, good to see you. Kyber as well. So vegetarian fed, right? That's usually the biggest giveaway, that it's an enclosed operation. It's not like a legitimate free range operation, because if it was legitimate free range operation and they're actually running around on pasture all the time, they would be eating bugs, insects, etc., because hens are omnivores, right? Their preferred food is like bugs, worms, insects, all that stuff. So when they're enclosed, they're given nothing but grains, and thus they're vegetarian fed. So when you see vegetarian fed, it really means grain fed, which is a non-species specific diet for that particular animal. And typically it'll kind of shoot the omega-6 up pretty high in relation to omega-3, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but can be a bad thing if you overall, for the rest of your diet, also have a tremendous amount of omega-6 in relation to omega-3. Then it can kind of accumulate to a pretty high inflammatory diet, which could lead to various health issues over a span of a lifetime. Because if you look up inflammation theory of disease, you'll see that pretty much all disease arises from chronic inflammation in the system over prolonged periods of time. It's not like something that happens overnight. So in short, USDA organic at the supermarket level is most likely just like factory farmed products, but with organic inputs. So instead of feeding the hens non-organic genetically modified grains, they just feed them organic grains. Instead of growing the carrots, for example, with synthetic biocides and fertilizer, they just grow them with more kind of natural, organically approved biocides, which can be a good thing or bad thing. It depends on operation to operation. Some operations are managed better than others. Just the only problem with crops at the supermarket level is they're all grown in a monocrop, right? And that's always going to degrade the quality of the soil. And the crop is going to be just as nutritious as the soil is healthy, because the crop, the vegetable or the plant, whatever you want to call it, gets all its nutrition from the roots, right? And the roots are embedded in the soil, and the roots can't quite move as freely as animals on the surface, for example. So they really rely on the soil and the soil food web for all of its nutrients. And the more nutrients it gets and the more nutrient dense that crop is, then the healthier you will obviously be. And in a monocrop, the problem is that nowhere in nature do you find acre after acre after acre of like soy or corn, for example. You can go, it's on the weekend, you can literally go for a hike out anywhere out in nature and just look anywhere, and you will see like 20 different varieties of trees, grasses. For example, even if you go out on a grassland, although the grass kind of looks the same, in any acre plot of grass, you probably have close to 120 different species of grass. And I think there are like 11,000 different species of grass all together that are on record. Who knows? Maybe over time we'll find even more. So this variety is what gives the soil food web its life and its balance. And when you take that variety out, inevitably the soil degrades very, very quickly. And that's going to produce weak plants. And remember, nature's way of getting rid of weak plants is to send in pests, those bugs. And when those bugs come in and the farmer doesn't want to change their style of farming, they'll have to use a lot of synthetic biocides like pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, etc., whatever is going on in that crop yield. And inevitably, all those chemicals will kill the soil food web even more, which would create even more imbalance, which would create sicker plants, which will then lead to the use of more biocides. And this could happen in organic monocrop, not well managed organic monocrop operations as well. And if they use organically approved pesticides, just the accumulation of those chemicals, because they'll have to be using so much of it, can also offset the balance in the soil and create a lot of sickness in the plants. So I hope that answers it. There's so much more to it. I just don't want to get into the chemical agriculture aspect of it. on this live in particular. What are your thoughts about purchasing vegetables and fruits at farmers markets? They're pretty good. It just depends on the farmer too. I think I could just answer it for myself personally. It's just inconvenient and it's too expensive, personally. That's my experience. That's my experience from it. So, okay. So, progressing, I kind of already lost where I was actually talking about, but my slow transition into, going from factory farm food or industrially produced food to organic, it was a slow process. Initially I was buying like 80% of my food that's all factory farmed, and then 20% that was at least USDA organic. And then over a few months period, it'd go like 30% that was USDA organic, and then 70%, and then 100% that was USDA organic at the supermarket level. And then I progressed slowly into buying my meats from places like AmericanGrassFed.org. You can scroll to the bottom of the website, and there is an interactive map there, and you can click on it, and it'll show the entire U.S. And they're all legitimately grass-fed, pasture-raised animals with on-site inspections with pretty strict standards as well. And this is important, especially for grass-fed label claims, because anyone can claim anything regarding grass-fed labels, right? So I could be a rancher, for example, even with grass-fed, grass-finished claims. I could be a rancher, raise my cattle for like 8 months on grass, put them on grains for like 3 or 4 months, finishing them on grass for like a week, and still sell it as grass-fed, grass-finished. No, almost nobody's going to check. Probably nobody's ever going to check. The consumer is definitely not going to check. They're just going to trust the label. And that's because there are no on-site inspections. You basically just fill out a form, you send it in, and then people take your word for it. But ranches that are American Grass-Fed certified, which is that website I mentioned, there are actual on-site inspections that occur basically once every 15 months. And the reason for that is because instead of every 12 months, so you can inspect the ranch in different seasons. Because some seasons you could legitimately grow grass-fed, some you can't. So you want to make sure they're growing grass-fed all year round throughout the different seasons. That's important as well. Also, just know on that website, you don't have to order directly from your state. Like a great company to order from that I had great experience with is azgrassraisedbeef.com. Typically, how it works is you order before Tuesday, they ship out on Tuesday, and you get it on Thursday. It's flash frozen. I never had the meat come in spoiled. Don't worry about it being flash frozen. It's actually far fresher than the meat you see on display at the grocery store, most likely, because they freeze it shortly after processing, and then all that nutrition is frozen in time, basically. And then once you defrost it, you're able to have like actually very fresh meat. And one thing you can do, there is a shipping cost of about $10, $12, but one thing you can do is you can calculate how much you need for like 2 or 3 months and order it in bulk, and then you pretty much have your meat for quite a long time, okay? And stuff of that sort. So that's what I do personally. So my diet personally is right now, like here are my protein sources, okay? This is literally all I eat for my protein. So I have elk, boar, deer, 100% grass-fed beef, 100% grass-fed bison, or wild fish. So basically, I try to eat, I try to rely on Mother Nature as the farmer. That's, in my opinion, the best farmer around, okay? That's the most sustainable farmer that's been doing it the longest and knows how to keep things very balanced. All the animals eat a species-specific diet. They're not growing with biocides, steroids, antibiotics, whatever, and stuff of that sort. So the elk, boar, and deer I get from a company called Force of Nature. You can kind of Google Force of Nature meats, and I actually just get those in ground beef form, and usually, or not ground beef form, but ground meat form. So usually the elk, boar, deer, beef, and bison, 99% of the time I just buy ground. simply because of a few reasons. One, it is cheaper, which is great. Two, it's just easier to make and quick. So I just make burger patties out of them oftentimes. And I usually eat about 2 pounds of any one of those food groups per day. And it's easy to make burger patties out of them, and they're very good. And I simply, for seasoning, just use some kind of Celtic sea salt or Himalayan salt, pink salt, or whatever, something of that sort. I mean, it's very basic. And I just put that on there, and it's really good for me. Like, I like how it tastes a lot, and some people need more seasoning, and that's okay if you're in that group. But that's what I eat. So basically, it's just all wild game and wild fish, and that's it. I personally try to stay away from like chicken, like farmed chicken, farmed duck, any kind of animals that are fed heavy amounts of grain as well. So all these animals that I listed are fed a species-specific diet, like wild fish. I mean, they're in the wild all the time. They're eating a species-specific diet that's variable. So all those nutrients are making it into, the flesh of the fish. Then you're going to be able to absorb those nutrient-dense foods as well, and stuff of that sort. And they're all eating species-specific diet. Like a species-specific diet for bison is like forage and grass. And that's what all 100% grass-fed bison eats. Beef, same thing. Their species-specific diet, they're like herbivores. David, fish, I try to mix it up, but for the most part, I just have sockeye salmon. I actually don't like the taste too much, but it's extremely high in omega-3, which is very, very healthy for a person to have. And it's also great for your skin complexion as well, for your joints, for brain health, just for your overall health. Charlie, good to see you, man. I just gave you a shout out earlier in the group, or earlier in the chat. So you guys, Charlie's journey has been amazing, and he can serve as a great example that it's never too late to change. He's lost, we've been training together. Charlie could remind me of the numbers. I think he's lost, just together, we've lost 92 pounds with him. And I think he lost like 30 or 20 pounds on his own before even beginning the program. So it's cumulative, like 110 or 120 pounds so far. We just have like a little bit more to go. He's already at the tail end of his journey. So almost 10 months at the tail end of his journey. But a great story, okay? A very busy professional and stuff of that sort. Has been overweight his whole life, maybe like some people can relate to. But it's never too late to change. I forgot Charlie's age exactly. I should know it since he's my client, but I have it all in the folders. And he decided to take action in his own hands, and he's looking great, and he's feeling great. And then obviously it's a lot easier to, in terms of your joint health and all that stuff, to be 90 pounds lighter. So 55 soon. Okay, so he's around 55 to 56 years old. All right, guys, and he was able to do it, so especially you younger guys, it's totally possible, and it becomes so easy once you put your mental and physical health first, It's only stays very difficult once you keep those a distant second. And remember, saying it's important to you isn't enough, right? Talk is cheap. Anyone can talk. You have to actually do it and live it and do it day by day, and not every day is going to be super fun and exciting. But just know that you can't fail by putting your mental and physical health first. It will always benefit you, and you'll always be better off, than by putting those second. In fact, I would say the second you put your mental and physical health second, misery will always follow close behind. Misery, obesity, and disease. Always a common theme. They're always really close friends. I was going back to, so basically my sources of protein: elk, boar, deer, beef, bison. So I was mentioning beef. They're herbivores. Cow. They eat nothing but grass. So I eat 100% grass-fed beef. I make sure they come from an AGA certified ranch. Luckily, I have a natural grocer's right near my house. So I go there. That's my favorite grocery store. I feel like that's like the highest quality grocery store you can possibly go to. And they sell AGA certified beef. They also sell meat from Force of Nature. And Force of Nature also sells their meats in the frozen section of Whole Foods, at least most of the Whole Foods I've been at. But you could also order directly from their site, and then the farmers get the money directly, which is nice. So I try to order directly from their site, And usually I calculate how much I need for, like 2, 3 months. And they even give free shipping if the order's over like $160 or $180. And I know sometimes when I bring up, like wild fish, all this wild food, people are like, oh man, that sounds expensive. It's really not too expensive. And I broke it down so many times in this group in terms of the cost difference, the indirect and direct. So for example, I eat around, 3,000, 3,500 calories a day, which is a lot more than what most people eat. And I spend, it's variable a bit. It depends on if you get them on sales and stuff of that sort and which items directly you buy. But I spend around $120 to $200 a month on food. A week on food, okay? So it's really not that much, especially when you consider like the average American spends $8,000 to $16,000 a year on eating, fast food, on alcohol, subscription services. And I mean, what does that stuff really do for you at the end of the day? Like maybe provides you sugar highs at best. But eating food like this, I could at least tell you for sure, it keeps me very lean personally all year round. No digestive issues, like I mentioned, like a very high testosterone is still like very muscular at 38 and 100% lifetime steroid, hormone free, never used any peptides, no SARMs or whatever else is on the market and stuff of that sort. Still able to lift quite a bit, still able to stay lean and muscular, have great skin, etc., etc. if that's a concern. No joint pain at all. Have great blood work as well. I should have brought my numbers, but triglyceride levels are great. Cholesterol levels are great. Blood pressure is perfect. Hormones are great, So, I mean, look at all that benefit you get from eating. Look at all that benefit I received from eating this type of food. Do you feel you'll receive the same level of benefit from spending your money on alcohol and eating out? I doubt it. And it's also, I would say, impossible to eat healthy and eat out. I'm just going to come out and say it. That's from my observation. And just go to any high-end restaurant like Ruth's Chris, Norton's, or whatever else is out there. I haven't eaten out in quite a while. And just look around at the people that are there. They're very overweight. Their skin always looks very bad. They always look very haggard, very much, much older than they are. And of course, there's so many more variables that go into it than just what they eat. They're probably doing quite a bit of things from a non-health conscious perspective. But you get my point. If you just change your core values a little bit, you'll see you're spending so much money on stuff that really doesn't do much for you at the end of the day. And like at least a USDA organic diet per year, if you're eating around 2,000 calories a day, will cost you about $5,000. And if you're spending $8,000 to $16,000 a year on non-essential expenses like alcohol, eating out, subscription services, all that BS that really doesn't do much for you anyways, $8,000 to $16,000 for sure. You have $5,000 a year for organic food, which will, make you look better, make you feel better about yourself once you look better, and then also just make you feel better internally too. Your blood work will be great as well, but eat legitimate organic food, like single ingredient organic food. That's what I'm referring to, like the steak, the piece of broccoli, or the oat. Like if you look at the back of the label and you look at the ingredients, it says one ingredient. It doesn't say like 50 million ingredients. If you look at the back of beef, it'll say beef, stuff of that sort. Most of the time, yeah, I eat 3 meals a day. But everyone's different. There's really, in terms of fat loss perspective, there's really no advantage of eating like 1 meal a day to like 6 meals a day. It's really all the same as long as the energy consumption is the same throughout the day. And it puts you in a deficit, for example. So, as I was mentioning here, beef, species-specific diet. Deer, obviously species-specific diet. Boar, wild game. Elk, that's A+ wild game right there. Wild fish, I try to vary it up quite a bit, but like I mentioned to David, I'm eating mostly sockeye salmon. It's fairly priced too. I think it's usually around like 12 to 14 bucks a pound, which is a good price for wild caught fish. So usually in a week, for example, I would eat, let's say for example, 2 days elk, 2 days deer, 2 days beef, and then like 1 day wild fish or something like that. Usually in ground, the wild fish I would eat in a fillet, obviously, but all the other ones I would usually eat as a ground type of option in a burger patty type of situation. So for carbs, I just do fruits, vegetables, and rice, all organic, at least USDA organic. And I do get these from the grocery store still. Usually for convenience, I get the vegetables in the frozen bags. And simply, that way they're ready, cut up, they're pre-processed for you, they're already pre-washed usually. And I usually just throw them in with my meats and put them in a pressure cooker or mini oven and let it cook there and then eat it all together for convenience that way. Okay? And then for fats, I get most of my fat from the meats, obviously, but also I have avocados sometimes. They're a really great source of natural fat. That's also great for skin complexion as well, if that's a concern. For water, or for liquids, let's just say overall, I literally just drink two things. I drink 1 cup of organic coffee in the morning, like I'm having here. I'm going to get a quick sip, always in glass, obviously. And water, like literally that's it, that I get from my Berkey water filter. Always filtered water, never add a tap too. As a general rule, you want to avoid drinking water out of tap just because of a tremendous amount of trace chemicals in there and different pharmaceuticals that make it into the water system. I mean, easily in unfiltered water, you're probably getting a good dose of 200 to 300 different chemicals per glass. And if you're very active, you might be drinking a gallon of that water a day. It could bioaccumulate quite a bit in your body over a lifetime and cause some kind of level of toxicity possibly, okay? So water is super important as well because it's the most important nutrient. It's what basically fuels all your cells. And obviously you're going to be as healthy as your cells and they require quite a bit of water. So there's that. And then for supplements, I'm not a big supplement guy. I do have a shake from time to time. Usually it's Dr. Meyer's paleo protein, and that's it. And I'm a really big believer, like if you're eating this type of diet and you have a great digestive system and you're able to break your food down appropriately, you really don't need any supplements. I honestly don't believe it. And you can probably, if you want to be certain, just eat this way, have a great digestive system, have your blood work done regularly, and just see if you're deficient in anything. Especially if you're throwing in organ meats here and there, I highly doubt it. It'll be interesting to see though. So that's pretty much my diet in a nutshell. I mean, it's very straightforward and I eat like that pretty much all year round. I don't work out all super crazy. I do like 45-minute workouts a day, maybe 4 to 5 days a week, usually in the gym. From time to time I go hiking. That's pretty much my physical activity. And you guys, I show you my progression over 20 years, staying very lean and muscular, drug-free as well. 22 years, whatever, longer, and all of these client progressions as well. So there's definitely something to it, right? Or I wouldn't be posting so many transformations, nor would I be consistent with my fitness journey so long. So obviously, like I mentioned in many other calls, there are various other variables to consider when optimizing your health, but nutrition is one of those main pillars, which is actually very, very important because you're going to be only as healthy as what you're going to eat, and that's it. So it's very important to take seriously, and the good news is it's the easiest thing to change out of all of the things you have to change. So I believe the hardest for most people is going to be changing the belief system that led to their excess weight gain or health issue A, B, and C. That's tough to overcome, as the saying goes. The toughest prison to escape from is the prison of your own mind, right? But changing stuff like this, it's pretty easy in comparison, and a lot of people can do it. Also, getting on a workout program, it's pretty damn easy, and it can start the ball rolling. And obviously, you could look at it also from the perspective of inflammation always begins in your body and leads to inflammation in your mind. So whatever mental disorder or central nervous system disorder you might have a genetic predisposition for, just having a lot of that inflammation in your body is just going to probably make that genetic predisposition worse, or you more likely to have it. So it's a great way to decrease the inflammation in your body quite a bit, and thus decrease the inflammation in your mind and your central nervous system as well, to help you think more clearly so you can take more appropriate action and go on an honest health journey, which isn't easy to do, as I mentioned. It's definitely not going to be like a 3-month transformation and just take this pill or take this fat burner and stuff of that sort. You guys already know, hopefully by now, that that's all a joke and a scam, and good things always take a while to, happen and come to fruition. For example, Charlie here on this call, it's basically he's been already, even before reaching out to me, has been already training for a couple months himself, and we've just been training together for 10 months. So you're looking right there, 12, 15 months, okay? Not 3 months. It takes also a long time of repetitive action to change your behavior patterns, and also to change your environment so that whatever led to those problems is mitigated or just completely ignored. So for example, as an extreme example, you obviously, if a person finished a drug rehab program and they went back to the same environment with all the drug addict friends and the dealer and all that stuff, and they're unemployed, the chances of them relapsing is going to be extremely high. So it's the same thing with fat loss programs or health journeys. If a person becomes healthy, or they lose their body fat, but they go back to the same environment, or they stay in the same environment where all those health issues or excess fat gain have occurred, the chances of them relapsing is, from my observation, extremely high. Extremely high, especially in a 3 to 4 year period. So not only do you have to change your nutrition, you have to change a lot of things in your internal environment, meaning your belief system that led to those problems, and a lot of things in your external environment to really see a complete resolution of your symptoms and stuff of that sort. And if you're interested in obviously going on an honest health journey, please reach out, set up a consult call, and I'll be happy to discuss some options. And until then, I'm happy to provide a lot of great information here, for you guys. I could easily charge for this information, easy, but I don't. I just like sharing it with you guys and like giving you maybe not easy answers, but honest answers, for those that are interested in going on an honest journey and just tired of running in circles all the time. So have a great weekend, guys. I saw Scott jumped in a little late. We're already on the tail end here. But have a great weekend, guys. Obviously, thanks for jumping in. Tim, good to see you. So Tim, I want you guys to know, I gave Tim some credit in the beginning of the call. He's another one of my former clients. So he's 61 right now. He's the client I mentioned that lost 60 pounds. And was able to get off 9 medical drugs. And now he's traveling like all over the world, where basically before he couldn't even go for a walk outside because he was so sick. He was so inflamed. He had so many digestive issues and stuff of that sort. And he was on 9 different medical drugs. But just through, working together, and, you're happy to reach out to him. I mean, he's a perfect example of a person that went on an honest health journey. Which Tim can tell you was probably not easy, but also staying sick is not easy either. So you got to pick which not easy you want, stuff of that sort. But he's a great example too, because he's 61, and a lot of people have given up already at that point. But I'm like, dude, you can do it at any age. If once again, you put your mental and physical health first. That's really the key. Like, honestly, put it first. Don't just say it in your head intellectually, like, do it in the real world. And unfortunately, the real world oftentimes doesn't reward you for putting yourself, your mental and physical health first either. So that's going to be another obstacle, okay? So I wish you guys the best. Tim, great to see you. And it'll be cool to also do another interview with you sometime down the line. All right, you guys, have a good weekend and hope you enjoy it. Take care.